Hi everybody, Mike Pfeiffer with Pfeiffer Hobby Supply. I was gonna just show you guys, we just got in the new Walthers GP38-2s in N scale, and I just wanted to show you guys how well these things ran. I'm pretty impressed, and I believe they take the DN163 LOA, but we'll go into that and I'll show you about a couple of tips about installing that decoder. So let's take a look at the locomotive and see what you think. Okay guys, here's the BNSF version. This is how it comes packaged. It does come with some snow plows and some accessory parts over here. It does have a great big huge DCC ready on it, and I don't know, I haven't taken too good of a look at it, but nowhere on it do I see the word lifelike. I don't know whether it's a redesign of the other GP38s they did or not, but let's take a look inside real fast. Here's what it looks like, kind of close up with my fat fingers in the way. I think it's a pretty good job. I like the way it looks. Of course I'm not a rivet counter or anything, but I think it's a pretty darn nice looking locomotive actually. I think the only thing that they could have done was blacken the outside of the pickup strips, and I think that would be easy enough to do once you got the locomotive. But the overall look of the locomotive is really nice. The paint job is really crisp. The handrails are pretty nicely sized. I think we ought to stick it on the test track here, and I'll show you what it runs like. Pardon the paint on my fingers, by the way. I was working on my fascia. Okay guys, here's the locomotive sitting on my semi-professional test track here. This is a 11-inch radius circle, and we're running on a Tech 2 2500, an older one. My power's already on, and I'm set to DC. And this is right out of the box. That's the slow speed performance, which I think is really smooth, and it's extremely quiet. I can't even hardly hear it running. Let's crank it up a little bit. As you can see on the knob on the Tech 2, that's a speed step of about 30 on the Tech 2, and it's cruising along at a pretty good clip. Personally, I know there's the guys out there that like the slow speed motors, but if you have Katos, I think that this would, I think it would really run with the Katos relatively well. But I'll just run it up and down for you here a little bit and show you the slow speed, the direction, reverse. Has real good response. No unusual noises. Very, very smooth sounding. And as we mentioned before, it does have microtrains couplers on it already. And let's run it up to full speed so you can get an idea of the actual speed. I would say that that's, for you fast speed motor guys, I would say that that's comparable to a Kato locomotive speed, which personally I don't mind. You can always slow them down, but it's hard to speed them up if you need to speed them up. So anyway, that's just pretty much so you can see how it runs. Let me get the camera down at track level and run it by. Okay guys, here we are at track level. Just run it by. And I hope you can hear that through the camera. Very, very quiet. We'll back it up here. My test track hasn't been cleaned in quite some time. That's no fault of the locomotive. We use it daily and it gets cleaned very rarely. But you can still see, even at that, how smoothly it just creeps by. Now let's take a look at a couple of tips on installing a decoder. Okay guys, here we are on the workbench. There is a nice set of instructions and stuff that come in this as well. And very well done, exploded view, parts list, everything in there. And this is the decoder that it takes, the DN163 LOA. It's the same one that the Walthers GP38-2 takes. It's a pretty nice little decoder. Sorry about the jump there, whacked the camera. The biggest problem is on this, and I've had this shell off already, but the biggest problem is getting the shell off. And this is a trick I learned on the net a while back, and I'm hoping that it's going to work here. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, we were able to get the back off here, and maybe we can wiggle it enough to get the front loose. It's just a matter of getting one end or the other started and then just lightly wiggling it, and everything stays together pretty well. It's got almost the same setup as far as attachment of the end of the sills, the steps, and everything as a Kato. I'm not saying it is a Kato, but it's a nice locomotive. You can see that it's a regular split frame chassis, and there's your regular circuit board in there. Not overly complicated, nothing fancy. It's pretty much like most locomotives these days. Now let's see if I can get the decoder out on camera here, or the regular board out. We're going to pull this light deflector out real fast here just so I get it out of the way. And it just pulls straight back very, very easily. In fact, I would almost say that it's a little bit light. You know, they might have some conductivity issues. The beauty of it is that there are these metal strips that run all the way along that are able to touch the frame. Not just the tabs up in front, but the strips all the way along. And I think that's the saving grace for the standard board. Okay. Now the first thing that we would normally do, and let me see what I can do here. I just happen to have a piece of Kapton tape here. This isn't a very good job. I would do a little better job than this, but you always want to put Kapton tape over where your tabs are going to lay down over the frame. And I got to cut this piece of tape here. Lay it down over the other side there. Because you see that the top motor tab comes, or the right-hand motor tab comes from the top on this particular locomotive, and the left-hand one comes from the bottom, which is kind of opposite of everybody else. But nevertheless, all you need is a piece of Kapton tape in there. Here's the new decoder. You can see on the new decoder here that all we have is these little tabs to pick up electricity. There is nothing to run along the edge of the locomotive frame here to pick up electricity. What I would recommend doing is, personally, I think it's a little loose. I would put some Kapton tape, maybe a couple of strips, maybe even 3 strips since it's kind of thin, right across here, right across this area right here. Not because we need the insulation there so much, but just to put pressure upward on the front of this decoder and make it contact the tabs better. On this particular decoder, you have to kind of start at the back and work the back end down, then work the front end down, and then you just slide it forward. Piece of cake. Okay. Now, like I said, our motor tab on this side is already under here. The one on this side, of course, is just like any other locomotive. It's on the outside of the metal tab, so I'm going to use the toothpick here to get it underneath, like so. And all you want to do too is make sure that this doesn't get bent and that this motor tab is not touching the frame down here, which there is plenty of room on this locomotive for it not to do that. The same thing would apply at the top. We can't really see it there, but I've already ensured that by looking at it that it would not touch. And besides that, when you push this down, it's going to pull the motor tab down. And basically that's it for the installation. I don't think I'm going to bother running it with the decoder in it because I have already done that. And the decoder, this particular Digitrax decoder runs the locomotive very smoothly. It runs equally as well as it did with the regular board in it. So, and then at this point, all there's left is to put the light deflector back on, which goes there. I don't know as we need to put it on. You'll notice that the light is considerably far back in here, which does tend to illuminate the cab a little bit, but it's not something you can't live with, I don't think, anyway. Also, in a close inspection of this locomotive, it's not overly greased up like a lot of locomotives from the past. There is a little bit of grease on the worm gears, but it's not dripping oil. And based on the fact of how quiet the motor runs in it, I would say that the motor in it does not need any kind of lubrication whatsoever directly from the factory. So I'm going to pull the board out of this. I'm going to pull the decoder board out of this and set it aside and just do this whole thing in reverse. We're going to get rid of this piece of Kapton tape. We don't need it. And I'm just going to reassemble the locomotive here just to show you that it, well, aside from getting the Kapton tape off your fingers, it's pretty fast. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and stick this deflector in while before I get that LED in the way there. And once again, we're going to start here at the back, as we did before. Put the back end in first, roll the front end down, slide the decoder forward, or the board forward. And like I say, it barely makes contact there, but it does have those strips along there that I think is what ensures the fact that it has a nice tight grip on the, or a nice tight touch on the frame to allow the power to get through the chip and to the motor, or through the board and to the motor. Kind of an incorrect terminology there. Make sure we put our motor tab back under. Give it one last final check. I always like to look down on the locomotive, make sure that the pickup tabs that go to the trucks are actually riding on the tops of the trucks, not binding on anything, which these are not. And because we took the back end off first, we're going to start the front end first. And I think what makes it a little bit tight is that light deflector board. So it's not the easiest shell in the world to get on and off, but with a little bit of work, it's not horrible. Got to kind of get it over that light deflector. And then we're going to run the front end down first, and then we're just going to roll the back end down, and once we get it level, bring it right on down and snap it in place. And this is what the locomotive actually would look like if you had the decoder in it. But the biggest tip in installing that decoder is to put some tape on that frame, maybe a couple, 2 or 3 layers of it, right in this area right here, so that when you put it in the locomotive, that tape tends to push up on this decoder like so that these pickup tabs make sure they make good contact with the frame. And anyway, guys, I think that's pretty much it on how to get that done. You can see how easy that Walthers has made this, and I hope you can see what a sweet running locomotive it is. I'm pretty impressed. That's why I'm doing the video. Okay, guys, I hope that gives you some kind of an idea of the quality that I think has gone into these new Walthers locomotives. I think they've done an outstanding job. I don't know what tooling is new, what tooling is old. Maybe it's all old lifelike, but if it is, they certainly have had their people go through the quality control and really make sure that they run nicely. And once again, let's take one last look at it. Real nice job. Real nice. I think real nice. Anyway, guys, I was also going to mention to you that it's a GP38. It's a GP38-2. This happens to be BNSF. It's in a number sequence, or the number of it is 929-50302. The road number is 2106. I think they run up through like 312, or they maybe even higher than that. We didn't get all of them that they make, but they're anyway. They're worth taking a look at, guys. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Take care for now, and we'll see you later.